said that, but he didn't. It's not recorded here. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little bit. Jesus, you know good and well, with the money that we have, I can't even give everyone a little morsel. I can't even give them a nickel of what money and what food that we have. It's not going to happen. This is what Philip is telling Jesus. One of his disciples, Andrew, Peter's brother, saith unto him, there is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. But what are they among so many? I find it very interesting in this. And out of the multitude, how was Andrew able to remember that there is one man, young boy, that had brought lunch? Out of the multitude of thousands of people, how is Andrew going to realize and remember, I saw one kid with a basket, but not only that, he knew what was in the basket. You know, and like I said, I like to visualize and paint pictures. I can see as this child showed up, maybe he walked by Andrew, and Andrew just jokingly said, hey, what you got in the basket? And he showed him. You know, God works in very mysterious ways. He works in ways that we don't understand. But the one thing that I know 100% is that was part of Jesus' plan. It wasn't by chance. It wasn't by mistake. It wasn't just something that happened. Jesus knew it would happen. Amen. Andrew didn't have a clue. But he remembered, I saw this young man and he had this bread and these fish. And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. Jesus said, have all the men. I can picture the side of the mountain being a grassy meadow. And Jesus said, have all of the men sit down. Just the men was around 5,000. That does not include the women and the children. So there were well over 5,000 people present. But Jesus had a plan. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. So, right now I want you to visualize with me. If you have to close your eyes to do it, close your eyes. But I want you to visualize Jesus up on the side of the mountain with his disciples gathered around him, and then there was a grassy area below them, and in that grassy area the men would sit down. And one of the reasons that it called out the men, because the food would have been given to the men, and then the men would have distributed among their family. And so Jesus takes these 5 barley loaves and he blesses them and he breaks them, and then he gives one of his disciples a portion of the barley loaves. I don't know if it was in a basket or maybe in a linen cloth. And then he does the same thing with the fishes. He takes these 2 small fish and he blesses them and he breaks them and he distributes a portion of the fish to each of his disciples. And try to put yourself in the shoes of the disciples. You seen what was given, Lord. You turn this way and you see the multitude. And then Jesus gives you just a piece of bread and just a piece of fish. And he says, go feed them. How would you have felt? How would you have felt? So as his disciples turn and they go to feed the multitude, I think it went something like this. They would reach into their basket and they would grab a piece of bread off of the portion that they were given, and they would hand it to the man. They'd reach back in their basket or in the linen, and they'd grab a little piece of fish and they'd give to the man. And then they would go to the next group, to the next family. And as they went to 2 or 3 people, they realized, I should have been out by now. There should be nothing left. But yet there was. There was more than enough. But what if the disciples, when Jesus prayed over these loaves and the fishes and he broke them and he gave them, what if they said, this is ridiculous? There's no use. There's not enough food here. What if the young man said, no, that's my lunch? I'm not going to give you my lunch. There's no way it's going to feed everybody anyway. What if Jesus is asked for you to give? What if Jesus is asked for you to give what you brought, what you have? And you say, Jesus, there's not enough for everybody. There's no way that this is going to work. What's the purpose? What's the reason? But Jesus has a plan. Jesus always has a plan. And just because you don't see it and you don't realize it, you don't understand it, that does not mean it don't exist. Or that does not mean, I think I said it right. 2 negatives, I'll make a positive, right? Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of what ifs in life. There's a lot of things that we don't understand. There's a lot of things that have happened that we don't understand. How can we understand what's going to happen? How can we feel good about what's down the road? Because we serve the one that has the plan.
Amen.
He already knows what he's going to do. Verse 12. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes fed thousands of people. And what was gathered up was greater than was given. Jesus doesn't waste anything. God doesn't waste anything. And I have found through my stubbornness, through my roller coaster ride as a young adult, until the time I should have known better, I have learned that anything that I have given to God, He has given back so much more. It was a learning process. And I share that with you so that maybe you can skip some of the roller coaster ride. So that maybe you can get further along in your maturity than what I was at a certain point. But serving Jesus is really very, very simple. It's us that makes it complicated. Because we tie strings to things. We think what God has given us is ours. We put our name on it. We stamp it on there. Property of. Punk. It's not ours. Everything good that you have in your life was a gift from God.
Amen.
Everything. And if He gave it to you, He can take it away.
That's right.
Yes.
Sadly, sometimes He has to because of our stubbornness and our thick-headedness. Okay, I'm talking about me. I'm just including you guys in the conversation. But it's really very simple. Whatever we have, I'm going to explain it to you. Whatever that we have, give it to Jesus. Doesn't matter how big it is, how small we think it is. It doesn't matter if we think it can do the job. It doesn't matter if we have confidence and we're giving away our safety net. You see, Jesus wants to be our safety net. You don't serve Jesus with a safety net because that's not faith. If you've got a backup plan, then you're not trusting Him. Okay, this is the first step. Whatever we have, we give it to Him. Whatever we have to offer, even if we don't think it's something to offer, we give it to Him. And then what did He do with the loaves and the fishes? He blessed it. But the part that He did between that and give it to the disciples was He broke it. He broke it down. The things that we think that we have, it must stop being ours and start being His. We have to cut the strings. We have to break the bonds that keeps it ours. And we must let Him have it completely. And sometimes He must break it down so that it can be used for His plan. We don't tell Him how we're going to serve Him. He tells us how we will serve Him.
Amen.
Remember, it's not our plan, it's His.
Amen.
You can look at history and tell that man's plan has not worked out well for man.
Amen.
But God's plans always have. Okay, so now we got the first two steps, right? Everybody understand? Whatever we have, we give it to Him. First step. He blesses it, and He breaks it down to the place where it can be used. And then He gives it back. So He gives us back what we've given Him. He's blessed it. He's glorified it. And then it's up to us to use it. It's up to us to share it. That's how we become the light of the world through Jesus Christ, is because Jesus Christ is living in us. It's His light that shines through us to a dark world. And if we do not do the first part, give it to Him. If we do not allow Him to separate us from it and to break it down in a way that He can use it. If we still hold ownership on it in our mind, then we're not going to get to the blessings. You see, all of these have got to be a part of our relationship with Jesus Christ. We want to jump from giving our heart to Jesus. One part that I left out earlier, but this is as good a place as any to bring it back up. It doesn't matter. People start following Jesus for a lot of different reasons. They were following Jesus because they wanted to see what He was going to do next, but maybe their reasoning for following Jesus wasn't correct. But you can never go wrong for following Jesus.
Amen.
We're sitting in church today because we're seeking Jesus, right? But we're all here for different reasons. I went to church for many years because I didn't want to disappoint this lady in the blue sweater. I knew she expected me to be there. So I was in church, but I wasn't there for the right reason. But I was in church. You see, we have to be, for us to get wet, there has to be water involved, right? For us to find Jesus, we need to be somewhere where He's at. But once the multitude were fed by Jesus and they were taught by Jesus, they got a different lesson than what the disciples did. The disciples got a lesson to, we better trust this guy. But there will come a time, and everyone that starts following Jesus, there will come a time in their lives where they have to decide, how serious am I going to be about this? Am I okay just following Jesus so that I got Him on speed dial? Am I okay following Jesus as long as it makes me feel good about myself? But there comes a point in following Jesus where we must choose to serve Him instead of Him constantly serving us. And that's where these steps come in. Give it to Him. Allow Him to take it and bless it and break it and give it back to you. And then just like the disciples who, you know, they had to have been thinking in their mind, there's no way this is going to be enough food. When I became pastor of this church, it was the first time I ever had this responsibility. And the thought was in the back of my mind, they're going to figure me out within the first year and they're going to run me off. But Jesus had a plan.
Amen.
But that didn't keep doubt from creeping in. Jesus knows what He's doing and He always has a plan. And all He wants from you is to say yes. Yes, Lord, I know I can't do this on my own, but I feel within my heart that it's what you want me to do. And so I will do my very best, Lord, and you're going to have to do the most of the heavy lifting here because I don't know. That's what faith is.
Amen.
It's not about what you can do, it's about what He can do through you. It's about what He can do in you. It's about what He can say out your mouth. It's about what you can do with these hands. What He can do with your hands. It's about where He can take your feet. But you have to give Him what you have and trust Him with it. I always wondered, and I know there's stories, but I always wondered how the person felt that led Billy Graham to the Lord. The person that helped lead Billy Graham to the Lord. One of the most famous evangelists and ministers that the world has ever known. But somebody had to help him. Somebody had to help him find Jesus. That one person that you reach. That one person that Jesus has planned for you to be the one to reach and to talk to. That one person that might see the light of Jesus Christ in your eyes. There's no limit to what they might be able to accomplish. Just because you say yes. Donna, if you'll come to the piano this morning.